Why do you lead? Don't be a leader unless you're doing it for the very right reasons. Don't do it if your reasons are not good. Hey, welcome again to Oscar Amisi's Leadership Podcast, where we are so passionate about leadership. We equip leaders with high capacity tools to drive societal transformation. Every week we dropped a teaching on leadership. And if you want to listen to these and many more, I'd ask you to subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you share. Share to those that you love, those that you think this would impact and make their leadership better. And even to get more materials from and more content from what I'm teaching, I'd kindly ask you to visit Amazon and get my latest book on leadership, Seed It Out, where how great leaders become great leader makers. Last week we introduced servanthood as the best leadership model ever. That is contrary to popular culture. And we talked to us about the mentality, the pillars of every servant leader. And we introduced you the 3 pillars. We worked on the first pillar, and that's the mentality of any servant leader, how servant leaders think. We told you that servant leaders think people first and not positions. They're not so much projecting their positions, who they are in society. They demystify their position and they intentionally move out to serve people, because to them, people are so important. And people are not a means to an end. People are there to be served. You don't use people and value things, but servant leaders use things and value people. We also told you that great leaders think service first and not self-glory. It's not about them, no. The position I'm in, I have this priceless opportunity to make people's lives better, not just for my benefit, not to use them as a stepping stone to greater glory. We also said, that servant leaders think purpose first and not just results. We want to make sure that the people that we lead get to realize and understand that we value them and we care for them. That they get to know that, listen, we're not just interested in what they do, but we're also interested in who they are. So we will build their capacity. We will expose and network them. We'll make sure that we improve their lifestyles so that as the purpose of the organizations that we are serving becomes bigger and better, in the same way the people who are helping fulfill this purpose are also becoming bigger and better. That's thinking purpose first and not just results. I want to give you a second pillar of servanthood. We talked about mentality. I'm going to give you a second one, and the second one is right motives. Right motives. One of the non-negotiable pillars of any servant leader is to make sure that they've settled the question of their motive for leadership. Right motives. Listen to this. Leadership starts from a heart of seeing others become better every day. Leadership starts from a heart of wanting to see others becoming better every day. A heart that is motivated by servanthood, where your social status or position does not stop you from humbling yourself to intentionally serve those that you're leading. Leaders with this kind of right motive know that, listen, if people become better, then I've fulfilled my purpose. I want to ask you a few questions for you to settle these motive questions. Number 1, what's your motive for wanting to lead? Don't be a leader unless you're doing it for the very right reasons. Don't do it if your reasons are not good. Why do you lead? See, your goal as a leader has to convince the people you lead of 2 things, 2 very critical things. One is that I care about you, that the people around you get to understand that you care about them. Number 2, I want to help you. It is not just my win. I am here to help you. So those 2 critical things that every leader needs to make sure comes out of their leadership style and how they're treating people around them is that, number 1, I care about you. Leaders care. In fact, in the Bible, leaders are called shepherds because they care. I care about you. And then number 2, I want to help you. I want to give you 2 primary motives for leadership and service. And I got this from a book by one of the guys that I follow so much, a great leadership expert called Patrick Lencioni. You'll do yourself a favor, go buy this book. It's called Motive. It's a leadership book that would help you up your leadership, in a very, very good way. And it talks about two primary motives for leadership and service. The first one, he says, is called responsibility-centered leadership. And the second one is reward-centered leadership. So responsibility-centered leadership, Patrick shares and says, is a leadership that is driven by a burden and desire to take things on for the good of others. Responsibility-centered leadership is a leadership that is driven by a burden and a desire to take things on for the good of others. See, this kind of leadership is about what it gives out and not so much what it takes. This leadership, responsibility-centered leadership, is about what do I give out. It is not what's in it for me. It's really about stewardship. And then he shares the second kind of motive on leadership. He calls it the reward-centered leadership. This leadership is about doing things that benefit the leader. You do stuff that benefit the leader. So you do things, but at the end of the day, you're using people as stepping stones to your end. I mean, they are means to a certain end, either to enrich yourself. If in the corporate space, you'll drive them like horses, just to make sure that you know all the glory, all the praise comes to you. If you're in a church setting, like I am as a pastor, you use your congregants and the people around you to enrich you, to meet your needs. In fact, your needs are first. This kind of leadership is really transactional. That people you're there to keep on getting and getting and getting. It's all for your benefit. Never concerned about the people that you're leading. And if anything does not come with a reward, then you don't even step into it, because to you, the question is always, what's in it for me? That's reward-centered leadership. You only do things where you see a reward. It's all about me. It's about what I get. What are your motives for leadership? Are you driven by the responsibility-centered leadership kind of motive? Or are you driven by the reward-centered motive kind of leadership? I want to challenge you that if you're going to cause a difference in society today, where we have a challenge across the globe of leadership, where things are going down just because of the wrong leadership that many of us are exposed to, I don't want to challenge you to embrace the responsibility kind of leadership, where you lead for the good of others. Can you imagine if nations and corporates and religious organizations had leaders, all of them had leaders who had this kind of motive, responsibility kind of leadership, where they do this, take up things for the good of others? I mean, our countries would be different. Our politics would be different. Our churches would be different. Our corporate organizations will be different, because people are better steward when they have this kind of motive. Let me give you the marks of right motives, and then I'll be sharing with you the wrong motives of leadership before we bring this episode to a close. How do I know I have the right motives or the right marks that show that I have the right motives for leadership? 3 things that I want to share with you. Number 1 is authenticity. Authenticity. You're authentic. You are serving from a point of genuineness. You are real at what you're doing, and there are no hidden cards under the table. I mean, what we see with you is what we get. You're not one of those who's so good, flamboyant, vibrant, so caring in public, but in private, you're undercutting everybody else that is around you. You're authentic. You're genuine. See, especially in today's world, where we have a big population of the young demographic in society, they are able to sense phoniness from afar. If you're not an authentic leader, you won't be able to especially influence the younger generation, because they want people who are authentic, people who are genuine, people who, when you see them, you realize what you see is what you get. You're not that leader who they say you drink wine and you preach water. No, you are a leader who is genuine. What we see is what we get. You're authentic and you are genuine. What you're in public is what you're in private. You don't praise people in public and undercut them in private. You're authentic. That's a mark, a good mark of right motive when it comes to leadership. Number 2 mark of right motives is selflessness. And selflessness is the realization that as a leader, you will give more than you'll ever get. Isn't that so true about leadership? And if you've been in leadership for some time, by now you realize that. Selflessness. That in leadership, you will always give more, especially if you're a true leader. You will always give more than you ever get. So you don't go out there thinking, I'm here to be served. I'm here to get. No, I am selfless as a leader because my work is to serve people. The good one, the difficult one. The easy one, the complicated ones. The ones who change, the ones who refuse to change. The ones who cooperate, and even sometimes the rebellious ones. I am selfless. That drives you. I understand that as a leader, I will always give more than I always get. In fact, my benefit or your fulfillment as a leader as you serve is the fact that you get to improve people's lives. If other benefits come, so be it. But your primary responsibility, your primary mark that is driving you is that if people get transformed, people get impacted, people's lives are changed, then I know I've fulfilled my call, I've fulfilled my vision. That is selflessness. Number 3 is humility. Humility. As a leader, you become big on humility. And you don't see success for your own glory. No. You see success as necessary so that the team and organization can thrive. In fact, you're ready to share success with people that you're leading. You're not just that kind of person who takes all the praise and passes all the blame. No. You are able to share success. That's what happens. That's somebody who's humble, somebody who's full of humility. That becomes a mark that gives to you. Let me remind you those 3. So, authenticity, selflessness, and humility. Let me lastly share with you the wrong motives for leadership. If these are what marks you out, then you realize you're in leadership for all the wrong reasons. One is popularity. Popularity. That you're driven by a hunger and a desire to be recognized by people. You want to walk down the streets and everybody salutes you. In fact, when you're driven by these, it no longer becomes the vision or the success of the organization. It becomes the success of you as an individual. It's no longer about the vision and the purpose of the organization that you're part of or you're leading. It's all about you. How do you become popular? It becomes your personal brand. How do I build my brand? Not even the organization. That's a wrong mark for leadership. A wrong mark for leadership. It's not popularity. It is to make sure that the vision and the purpose of the organization thrives and is fulfilled. Number 2, pretense. Pretense. Being a pretender. Always creating an impression that in reality does not exist. In fact, this is the opposite of authenticity. You're not authentic. Like we said earlier, what they see you in public is not what you are in private. Pretense is a wrong mark or wrong motive for leadership. Number 3 is pride. Pride. Now, this is the opposite of humility. You're motivated by pride and you do things to satisfy your own ego. It is all about you. The talk is never about we, the team, but it's always about I, the leader. When things go right, you say, you know what, as a leader, I was very tactical, I was very strategic, I had foresight in my thinking, so you take all the praise. When things go wrong, you're like, the team didn't follow my instructions, they didn't do what I asked them. It's never about we, the team. It's always about I, the leader. You're full of pride, full of an ego. And leaders like that don't take correction, don't treat those that are around them well, because it is always about them. And unfortunately, as they continue, they become bigger than the organization, and within no time, organizations that are led by people full of pride crumble, just like those prideful people crumble along the way. I want to challenge you. check your motives. Let me ask you, let's review what we've said today. 1, why do you lead? Leadership starts from the heart before it is a skill. If you have the right heart posture, then you will lead well. We've got to convince people of 2 things, that we care about them and we love them. And leaders who have the right kind of motive are authentic, are selfless, and are humble. The wrong marks for you to watch out for is popularity, pretense, and pride. I want to challenge you. This world is hungry for genuine, authentic leaders who will transform our society. Would you be a leader who leads for the very right reasons, where your heart is in the right place? And as you move out to lead, that will be seen out there and you'll be able to impact so many. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode. I pray that this is challenging you and giving you a desire to become a better leader in whatever space that you find yourself in. Again, I'll ask you, don't just subscribe to this channel so that you can get more of our teachings and more of our content. And if it's blessing you, it's helping you, would you share it with your friends? Share it with those that are around you. Again, let me remind you, more content, go to Amazon. Get my latest book, Seed It Out, How Great Leaders Become Great Leader Makers. That would be the best decision that you would have made for your leadership journey. See you again next week as we continue on this conversation on servanthood or servant leadership. See you. Be a great leader. Go ahead and influence people. Shalom.